Everyone, good evening. So we are reading Keeper of the Lost City, and in today's video I'm going to read chapter 6 in this story. So let's read it. That night Sophie dreamed the cobbler elves were holding her hostage until she perfected all their cookie recipes. Then she told them she liked Oreos better, and they tried to drown her in a giant vat of fudge. She woke in a cold sweat and decided sleep was overrated. When morning came, she took a quick shower and threw on her best jeans and a shirt she'd never worn, buttery yellow and brown strips. It was the only item in her closet that wasn't grey, and she'd always been too self-conscious to wear it. But the color brought out the gold flickers in her eyes, and today she would see fits again. As much as she hated to admit it, she wanted to look good. She even clipped a part of her hair back and toyed with the idea of lip gloss. But that was going too far. Then she snuck downstairs to check outside for him. She crept into the front yard, blinking to keep the falling ash out of her eyes. The smoke was so thick it stuck in her skin. Seriously, when were they going to get the fires content? Looking for someone, her next door neighbor asked for his porch in the middle of his lawn. Mr. Forkle could always be found there, arranging hundreds of garden glooms into elaborate tablets. No, she said, hating how noisy he was. I was clicking to see if the smoke was any better. I guess it's not, she coughed for added effect. Her body blue eyes bored into hers, and she could tell from his thoughts that he didn't believe her. You kids, he grumbled, always up to something. Mr. Focal loved to start sentences with the word you kids. He was old and smelled like feet and was always complaining about something. But he was the one who called 911 when she fell and hit her head, so she was obligated to be nice. He moved a gloom a fraction of an inch to the left. You should get back inside before the smoke gives you another of those headaches you are always. Loud weeping interrupted him, and a ball of fur with legs squeaked up the sidewalks, barking its tiny head off. A blond guy in spandex jogging shorts chased after it. Would you mind grabbing her? He called to Sophie as the dog raced across her lawn. I will try. The dog was quick, but Sophie managed to step on the lash with a clumsy lurch. She kneeled, stroking the wild-eyed, panting creature to calm her down. Thank you so much, the guy said as he ran up the path. As soon as he drew close, the dog groaned and slammed against the lash, barking like mad. She's my sister, dogs, he shouted over the noise. She hates me, not my sister, the dog, he added. He held out his hand, displaying several half-moon-white whorls, fresh and still bleeding. One was so deep it would definitely leave a scar. Sophie packed up the trembling dog and hugged her. Why was the dog so afraid? I don't suppose you'd be willing to carry her back to my sister's house. It's just a few blocks away, and she seems to like you better than me. He winked one of his perching blue eyes. She most certainly will not, Mr. Forkle yelled before She could open her mouth to answer. Sophie, go inside and you. He pointed to the jogger. Get out of here right now, or I'm calling the police. The guy's eyed eyes narrowed. I wasn't asking you. I don't care. He forked interrupted. Get away from here now. The barking grew louder as the guy moved towards Sophie. She could barely think through the courts, and there was something in his expectation that made her wonder if he was planning to grab her and drag her away. And that's when it hit her. She couldn't hear his thoughts, even the barking. She should have heard something. Would Fitz have sent someone else in this place? But if he had, why wouldn't the jogger say that? Try to Why try to trick her? Before she could react, Mr. Floker stepped between them, stopping the jogger in his tracks. Mr. Floker might be on the old side, but he was a large man, and when he straightened up to his full height, he made quite an emulating figure. They stared each other down for a few seconds, then the jogger shook his head and backed off. Sophie, let the dog go, Mr. Forkel ordered. She did as he said, and the dog raced away. The jogger groaned at them both before he took off after it. Sophie realized the breath she'd been holding. You're okay? Mr. Forkel promised. If I see him again, I will call the police. She nodded, trying to find her voice. Thanks. Mr. Forkel snorted, shaking his head and grumbling something that started with you kids as he returned to his lawn grooms. Better get inside. Right, she agreed, moving up the path on shaky legs. As soon as the front door closed, she leaned against it, trying to make sense of the skirted questions racing through her mind. Why would that guy try to grab her? Could he be another elf? Fitz had some serious explaining to do. Whenever she decided to make this next appearance, there was still no sign of Fitz. When he got to school and now she wasn't sure what to do, he might be waiting for her to be alone before he appeared. But after the dog incident, she wanted a few eyewitnesses around, unless Fitz had sent the jogger to get her. It was all so frustrating and confusing. She headed for class when the bell rang, lurking a few steps behind the other students. A hand grabbed her arm and pulled her into the shadows between buildings. Sophie stopped her scream just in time when she recognized Fitz. Where have you been? He demanded a little too loud. Several heads turned their way. Do you have any idea what I have going through? Missed me bad, huh? He whispered, flashing a cookie smile. She felt the blood rush to her face and looked away to hide her blush. More like you left me alone with ton of unanswered questions, no way to find you. And then this guy shows up and tries to grab me and whoa, wait, what guy? I don't know, she said. Some creepy blonde guy trying to trick me into wandering off with him, and when I wouldn't, it looked like he was going to snatch me, but I wasn't sure because I couldn't hear his thoughts, and I think he might be another elf. Okay, so down. Fitz swept his hair back. No one else knows you are here, only my dad, and he sent me to get you. Then why couldn't I hear his thoughts? I don't know, he admitted. Are you sure you couldn't? He replied the scene. Trying to remember, there had been a lot of barking and glowing, her heart pounding in her ears. She couldn't even remember here's Mr. Fox's thoughts now that she thought about it, and she could always hear this. Maybe not, she said quietly. My guess is he was human, and maybe his mind is just quieter than the others. But we will check with my dad. We did be better move through. He pointed to a teacher who was eyeing them like she suspected impending mischief. We can't leap with people around. Leap? She squeaked as he pulled her behind the English building. I can't ditch class if it's. They will call my parents, and after yesterday, I think my mom might struggle me. This is important, Sophie. You have to come with me. Why? Just trust me. She locked her knees so he couldn't pull her any farther. She couldn't be disappearing all the time, elf or not. She had a life here with classes she couldn't fill and parents who could ground her. How am I supposed to trust you when you won't even tell me anything? You can trust me because I'm here to help you. That wasn't good enough. If he wouldn't tell her what was going on, she knew how to find out. It was strange to wiggling use her telepathy after so many years of trying to block it, but it was the only way to find out what he was hiding. So she closed her eyes and reached for his thoughts, the way she had day the day before. The breeze blushed through her mind, whispering scattered pieces of information nothing needed through, but when she pushed a little further, she found what he was hiding. A test? She squeaked. What am I being tested for? You read my mind? He dragged her deeper into the shadows, shaking his head hard. You can't do that, Sophie. You can't listen to someone's thought anytime you want to know something. There are rules. I have tried to read my mind without my permission. That's different. I am on assessment. What's that supposed to mean? Fitz ran his hands through his hair, which he seemed to do when he was frustrated. It wasn't matter. The matters is you could get in big trouble for invading someone's mind like that. It's a serious offense. The way he said serious made everything inside her snatch and twist together. Really? She asked quietly. Yeah, so don't do that again. She started to nod, but a small movement at a nearby oak caught her attention and she froze, her heart hammering so hard it drowned out everything else. It was only for a second. She couldn't have sworn she saw the jogger's face. He's here, she whispered. The guy who tried to grab me. Where? Fitz scanned the campus. She gestured together the tree. But there was no one around, no thoughts nearby either. Did she imagine it? Fitz pulled the silver pathfinder from his pocket and adjusted the crystal. I don't see anyone, but let's get out of here. We shouldn't keep everyone waiting. Anyway, who is everyone? My parents and a community of our counselors. It's part of the test you heard me thinking about when you broke into my head. He shot her a sidelong grin and she felt her cheeks heat up. Sorry, she mumbled. She'd never thought of telepathy as breaking in before she could see his point. His thoughts hadn't automatically filled her mind the way they did with humans. She did shoved her she wouldn't make the mistake again. It was like she did ever enjoyed being a telepath anyway. Reading minds always caused way more problems than it solved. Fitz took her hand and led her into the sunlight. Ready? She asked as he held up the pathfinder. She nodded, hoping she couldn't feel the way her arm was shaking. Can you tell me what the test determines? He grunted as his eyes locked with hers. Your future. Chapter finished. So, hope you liked today's chapter. That's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.